that power doesn't go away. It just becomes an internal thing. So we become
Yeah.
more self-aware, we become, more reflective, and we can harness this inner power.
Welcome to Hot Flashes and Higher Self, the podcast where midlife becomes your awakening. I'm Soraya, a clinical hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapist guiding women through perimenopause and beyond, embracing transformation rather than just symptom management. Each week, myself and inspiring women in wellness will dive into mindset shifts, somatic tools, spiritual practices, and the candid stories that move us towards our limitless selves. So, if you're navigating perimenopause, menopause, or simply just wondering what's next for me, then you're in the right place. Let's rise together, mind, body, and spirit. This is Hot Flashes and Higher Self. Hi, Dhru, and welcome.
Hi.
Can you start by telling us a bit about yourself and how you came to practice Ayurveda? I've practiced saying that because I can't pronounce it properly.
So many people say it so many
Ayurveda.
different ways. It's
Did I
fine.
say the right way, Dhru? Because I've
Yeah.
practiced it a few times.
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Yeah.
Ayurveda? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. So yes, tell us.
So how I came to practice Ayurveda. So I actually, in my early life, was in the corporate world. I was in HR, doing projects and, all of that sort of thing, just being very, very busy and following that whole corporate life. But then I was pregnant with my first child, and I knew I didn't want to go back to like sitting behind a desk and going into the rat run. And during that time, I was kind of exploring what I could do, where I could go. I did a lot of sciences and psychology when I was at university. And I thought I would go into nutrition because, like having a basis in science and biology, I thought this will be good. Like this plays to some of my strengths. And I did a few courses and I was like, just something was kind of missing. And I kept looking around and I found a talk on Ayurveda. And when I was listening to it, things just started clicking in my mind. And it was that click of this is what my grandmother used to talk about when she was talking about food. And she was like, don't eat this at that time because that's too heating, or don't eat this in the winter, that's too cooling. And it was just that kind of, oh, that makes so much sense to me. And at the time, I was, as I said, I just had my first child, and my mum came along to look after me during my postpartum period. And she did the whole cultural Indian postpartum diet for me. And I really got to understand the impact of food on your well-being at that time, because she completely stripped back my diet. I was only having warm foods, freshly cooked foods, very nourishing foods, lots of good healthy fats, all of the things that were going to build me up after being depleted from birth and build me up for my breastfeeding journey. So I was learning about this stuff and practicing this diet at the same time. And I was experimenting as well, by accident actually, on how these things were working. So after my mum had left, and I was still carrying on the diet somewhat, slowly introducing new foods. But some of the remedies I was taking consistently. And then I traveled, I'm from New Zealand, so I traveled with my newborn at the time to New Zealand. And on that on that 28-hour
Brave. I
flight,
was thinking brave, Dhru.
I know,
And you
I
flew
would
on
just
this long haul flight. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, it was like she was easy because she was like tiny and she slept a lot, but it just meant I couldn't do a lot. But I mean, like a 28-hour flight meant that I couldn't take some of those remedies that I was taking. I couldn't have the diet that I was used to, and I was
Yeah.
having to adjust it. And when I got to the other side, I could really feel the effects of having not had it for like that short period of time. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, wow, this really, really works. So that is how I got started into my studies, and
Yeah.
it's just carried on from there.
Okay, so it kind of was like naturally went into it. You were learning more about Ayurveda, but at the same time you were experiencing the benefits when your mum came to help you take care of your newborn as well, right? So
Exactly.
that's quite
Yeah.
powerful in itself, yeah. So how does Ayurveda traditionally view perimenopause and menopause?
Um, I think the best way to explain it is it's all a natural life transition. So
Mm,
Ayurveda is made up of two words and it translates to the science of life.
mm,
So holistically, it gives us information on how to navigate everything within life. So from, like I was saying, my postpartum period, birth and everything, it's like all the way through to old age. And it does it by understanding the energy forces of the universe and translating that into how we are made up. So we are made up of the five elements, which the entire universe is made up of. So that's ether, air, fire, water, and earth. And Ayurveda brings those five elements together into three doshas. So vata dosha, pitta dosha, and kapha dosha. So these are three bioenergetic forces that govern everything. So our body, the environment, absolutely everything. They each have different qualities. So vata is cold and dry and mobile. It's the energy of movement, and pitta is like it's heat, it's transformation, it's warmth, and it's like it's sharpness, right? And then kapha is its strength and stability, its building blocks, and its nourishment and all of that sort of stuff. So when we talk about menopause and perimenopause, it's this transition from one life stage to the next. And it's these bioenergetic forces are shifting, right? So when I said that these doshas govern everything, they also govern our stages of life. So early childhood is a very kapha stage of life. So you're building, you're growing, your muscles are gaining strength, your bones are growing, so it's a very kapha stage of life. And then adulthood is a pitta stage of life. You've got the fire, you've got the transformation, you've got the drive to do things, you've got the motivation, you've got the productivity. So that is your adulthood. And then your older life is a vata stage of life. So you're kind of getting a bit dry, you're slowing down, things are, a bit cooler. And those are all of those kind of menopausey signs, right? As
Yes, I
well.
know.
Yes.
That's what I'm thinking. Dry, yes. Dry skin, yes. Tick.
Yes. So
Mhm.
perimenopause and menopause is this transition from we've had this fruitful and fertile pitta stage of life, and we are transitioning into this vata stage of life. So naturally that vata bioenergetic force of dryness, coldness is coming about. But also because it's a transition, all of those doshas are a little imbalanced because they're all trying to like work themselves
The
out.
hot flashes, Drew.
Exactly.
What was that one? What was that stage? The heat?
The
What was it called?
heat, the pitta is
So
coming
the pit
up.
is kind
Yeah,
of coming in as well. Okay,
yeah,
nice.
yeah. So with the vata is it's instability, right? So
Mhm.
it fluctuates because it's mobile. So it goes this way, it goes that way, and it's making those hormones fluctuate, right? So the hormones are
Yeah.
going up
Mhm.
and down, this and that, and the stability, which is kapha, right?
Mhm.
Which we equate to the estrogen, is decreasing.
Mhm.
So that stability is decreasing, the
Yeah.
fluctuations is rising, and then this heat, these hormones don't know whether they're coming or going, right? So
Mhm.
they're just like going everywhere.
Yep. That's how it feels. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Fun.
Um, so that is how Ayurveda would describe perimenopause and menopause. But we see it as very much a natural transition,
Yeah.
right? And it's a long transition. It's not just like something that happens all of a sudden, right? There are many, many signs long before menopause hits. Like this perimenopausal stage is
Transition, exactly.
long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think before I used to just think, menopause is just your period stuff and that's it. Whereas it's
exactly.
not. It's actually, like you said, it's a long transition. Sometimes
Yeah,
up to 10 years, you go through these
exactly.
different symptoms going up and down
Yeah,
until you finally don't have any periods for 12 months, and then you officially are in menopause.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I was in the park the other day, and I was like looking around, and we are in that perimenopausal stage of the seasons, right? Right?
Mhm.
We're moving from this like late summer into autumn, and you can absolutely see the
Yeah.
changes before autumn truly hits, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look closely at the leaves, like that you can see the slight yellowing of the leaves. You can see the slight drying out before they have
Yeah.
dropped.
Yeah.
Like if you take notice of those things, you can see it happening before the big sign, which is like all the leaves on the floor. you know?
Yeah, I know. It's true. Yeah, that is when you kind of use that analogy. But I kind of like to see it as the next spring. It's a bit more empowering because it's a new chapter,
Yeah,
isn't it? So
it's a
it's
new
like
chapter,
things
absolutely.
are changing.
Yeah,
Some things don't feel great, but it's also kind of a new kind of
yeah,
identity as well, right?
absolutely. I like to see it as like it's like you're tuning into this inner wisdom that is coming out,
Yes.
right? So
Mm.
I was when I was prepping for this, I was like doing a lot of thinking about the Shakti energy, and
Hmm.
that
So what? Sorry, energy. What does that
Shakti,
mean? What
Shakti
does that?
energy, which is that feminine power.
Okay.
Uh, so in Ayurveda we have Shiva Shakti. So Shiva is the masculine power, which is
Hmm.
potential, and Shakti is the creative and the generative power, right? So as females, we have this innate creativity, generative power. So in our prime and adulthood, that generative creation is obviously focused as we're talking about reproductive power. We're in
Hmm.
our prime fertility. Now, when
Yeah.
that starts to wane, that power doesn't go away. It just becomes an internal thing. So we become
Yeah.
more self-aware. We become, more reflective, and we can harness this inner power
Mm.
more innately, right? Like it's this inner wisdom that is just like, yeah, coming into fruitfulness in itself rather than being an external reproductive generative power.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think that's much more empowering than thinking of like shriveling up like leaves and falling to the ground.
I mean, that's how we like equate like vata, autumn, like it's the qualities of it. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily like a bad thing because
Hmm.
there's so many things that we can do. Autumn is about harvest,
Yeah.
right? It's bringing all of that fruitfulness of the summer and that productivity into
Yeah.
harvest, right? And so it's
Mm.
bringing that wisdom that we have gained over so many years into
Mm.
fruition.
Mm. True. I like that. Yeah. Which brings me to my next question. From your perspective, how is the state of life misunderstood in modern health systems?
um, so so much. So I mean, I feel like firstly, like there's a lack of education, right? We kind of hit this phase of life, and I know more and more people are talking about perimenopause, which is great. But before this, like it was all just about menopause, and it hits, and that's it. You get hot
Yeah.
flash, and you're done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so there's lack of education is really hindered women's growth and development in this area. And I think like the symptoms are recognized too late. If we're talking about menopause, it is literally like you don't have a period for 12 months, right? But all of that stuff that happened for 5 and 10 years before that, that's just been ignored.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Mm.
Ignored or misdiagnosed. You're like, oh, you've got anxiety, right? Go and take some pills. Or you're depressed, right? Go and take some other pills. These aren't connected as signs of perimenopause. If you can't sleep, then, again, um, take some sleeping pills or something
Pills.
like,
Yeah.
they're all you're putting a band-aid on something that doesn't need fixing. It's just we need an understanding of this life transition to be able to navigate it with some ease and some flow.
No, absolutely. I think that's the main reason why I wanted to have this podcast, just to talk about it more, because when I went into perimenopause, I didn't even know I was in perimenopause. When I missed my period, I thought I might be pregnant again. I've got 5 kids. Like, I knew the pregnancy signs, like, feeling
Right?
tired, not having the
Yeah.
period, the
Mm-hmm.
breasts, the tenderness, all of that was there. So
Yeah,
I thought, obviously, I'll get a pregnancy test, but it was negative. And then, and,
exactly.
and then because I really believed I was pregnant, I kept getting tests and I said, no, there must be something wrong. I didn't think of anything else because that
Right?
was my natural assumption. I think, because for me, I thought, menopause is when you're really old.
Right. Way
And
down the
I
line. You're
was
not
like
thinking about it.
45. I was like, but then anyway, I went to the GP and she did some tests on me and she said, oh yeah, your hormones are normal for a woman your age. You're going through perimenopause. I was like, oh, okay. So, but she didn't say give me any suggestions or help
Yeah.
me or ask me about other symptoms. So she just left me. And I was like, okay. And I
Yeah.
think that's when it's kind of isolating. You can't speak to any, like I didn't know what to expect until you
Hmm.
start talking to friends. I was like, okay, and then all these different symptoms of the brain fog, that's when I was like kind of linking things together. I
Yeah.
don't know. So it's yeah, so it's interesting to speak to other people to see how they're experiencing and also how to support them as well, which is why I
Yeah.
wanted to have this conversation with yourself, and other practitioners who, I've met who are coming to the retreat, because it's important, I think, because, there
Absolutely.
are options how you can feel better, right?
Absolutely. There's definitely options. And I think one of the biggest things that you're doing is, helping women to feel less isolated,
Mm,
removing like, any kind of shame and stigma around this topic just by talking about it. Because, I mean, let's face it, in the past, it has been kind of a very hush hush topic.
mm,
Um, and I think just women's health and overall, we've been, culturally or societally like conditioned to not listen to our health through our cycles, ever since puberty, when it's just like power through, or, periods are messy and, we just ignore any signs and symptoms and we just like keep on going as if nothing is happening to us. And that is that kind of when you start to not listen to your body, and then we carry on not listening to our body, and then we get to menopause and it's shouting at us really in the perimenopause.
yeah, completely. I think that's the point when you need to change something. And I think also
Absolutely.
it's a sign. That's why, like, for me, I think it's not like the end, it's the kind of transition when you're able to actually just
Hmm.
say your piece. Just because a lot of people, they're kind of repressing, like a lot of my clients,
Mm.
women, like they actually repress so much stuff throughout decades and decades, and then finally at this age,
Yeah.
when their body is like telling them, they're
Let go.
starting to speak out. You let go,
Let
yeah, because
go.
otherwise you hold, your body, as you know, like holds onto stuff, trauma, and it
Yeah.
manifests itself. You get sick, physically sick. It's all kind of related to the mind and the body.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
what you're saying also is about, the universe and the body and like different energies. It's all kind of relates together, right? It's about
Yeah,
working with it, not against it.
absolutely.
It's like one of my friends said, it's like when you're in menopause, it's like puberty. It's like puberty, like, teenagers go through puberty and women at a certain age are going
Hmm.
through this transition. It's the same kind of thing. And it's like
Yeah.
I heard this terminology, it's called the cougar puberty. I think it's so funny.
I've never heard of that. That's hilarious.
And I was researching for my episode, I found, and I really quite like it. I think it's
Yeah.
funny. It's kind of light. It just seems a
Yeah.
bit lighter than saying perimenopause. It just seems so kind of final.
Absolutely.
Whereas cougar is like the kind of like fun sense to it. It's like
Yeah.
women having fun, and it is
It
puberty
is. It
really.
is absolutely. So
One's going through changes.
yeah, I mean, in a lot of old cultures and in Ayurveda, these two transitions in life are seen as big as each other, right?
Mm,
Puberty and menopause, like they're both the same. When I was studying Ayurveda, my the doctor I learned from, she used this analogy of like our fertility being like lighting a candle.
yeah.
And so at puberty is when you light the candle, right? And when you light a candle, it kind of has that flare up and it goes
Yeah.
whoosh, and it goes
Yeah.
really high, right? So
Yeah.
that's that pitta energy going really high, and you get all of those, very similar, like the anger, the irritability, the mood
Yeah.
swings, all of those. So that's that same like flare up of pitta happening when you light the
Mm.
candle. And then you go through the very steady years of this candle flame and like being fertile in your prime. And you've got that steady kind of candle wax, which is your kapha energy, which is keeping you very stable. You've got the
Mm.
wick, which is like very stable because of being held in place by this kapha estrogen and stability. And this flame, which is kind of, it's there and it's good and it's like happy, right? And then menopause is like when that flame is about to go up because you've used up this estrogen, this kapha energy. And
Mm.
when a candle goes out, you get this irregularity of the flame, right? It goes and fizzes.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening in perimenopause and menopause is the
Yeah.
candle of like the fertility candle, like fizzing out and like being all unstable because we've lost all the candle wax.
Yeah, it's a great analogy, and it's quite good to see like visually, but it's true.
It is. I mean, it really stuck with me when she explained it like that. And I was like, yeah, okay, that makes so much sense.
So, what kinds of foods or routines do you often recommend to support hormonal shift?
So, as I've said all along, so we're transitioning from, this pitta stage of life into this vata
Mhm.
stage of life. And this transition has a lot of that vata energy because it's very irregular. I would always recommend a vata balancing diet and lifestyle with a bit of pitta coolingness and activities. Um, so the one main thing would be a consistent routine to eat at regular times, to wake up at regular times, and to go to sleep at regular times. Because Vata is this energy of movement, right? And it likes to go from this place into that place. But when you actually give it some boundaries, it actually feels comfortable, right? And that comfortableness will calm your nervous system, right? Because Vata governs the nervous system. And so it likes to be held within nice, comfortable boundaries, right? And that's going to calm it down. And you're not going to have those really high highs and really low lows. You're just going to bring it into a nice container. And then there's things like gentle movement and exercise. So yoga, walking, tai chi, like the weight training, but not doing like the heavy cardios and the fast movements because that's going to imbalance that vata energy. Keeping things really light and joyful and creative. So even things like dance,
Mm.
like dance, movement, like things for joy. Yeah, I think that's what those kind of things that we really need to reconnect with. And then another one is Abhyanga. So that is a self oil massage. So this one is,
And
it's,
oil math, the
yeah,
self oil math. Okay.
self oil massage.
Mm-hmm.
So this one is fantastic. It calms the nervous system because you're giving yourself an oil massage, right? You're nourishing your body with this oil. So you're almost like, if we come back to that candle wax, you're almost like nourishing, giving yourself a bit more candle wax and a bit more nourishment and a bit more stability to see yourself through this transition. And
What
it's
kind of oil though, Drew? Any oil? Like baby oil, I've got Johnson's baby oil. Is that
sesame
is there,
oil, sesame
yeah,
oil.
sesame oil, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm making notes.
absolutely. Sesame oil
Yeah.
is good for everybody.
Uh-huh.
And like I said, like people have different makeups of doshas within them. So somebody could be more
Mhm.
vata naturally, or more kapha naturally, or more pitta naturally. And if you were able to, like, I mean, there's lots of online quizzes and stuff, but you can work out your own dosha. And sometimes if you have a bit more pitta and you're a bit more hot and fiery, then you can kind of use coconut oil because you can handle the coolness of the coconut oil. But sesame oil will work for everybody. Okay, sorry, you did ask about foods though in
Yes, I was going to
particular.
ask you next food, yeah.
um, so foods that are warming, nourishing, easy to digest. Um, So things like soups, cooked veg, stews, khichdi, good healthy fats like your ghee, sesame, avocado, whole grains, like seasonal fruit and veg.
Hmm.
They're all going to help. And when you're eating them in, a good routine, that will help your digestion as well. And improving your digestion is also one of the a good thing that you can do for stabilizing mind and body through this transition.
And because you mentioned, sorry, go ahead.
So I was also going to say that things to avoid in terms of food is to
Mhm.
avoid cold foods, to
Okay.
avoid raw foods, processed foods, and also avoiding overly spicy foods. So if you're having spicy foods, it's just going to increase the heat in the body, which is going to, give rise to those hot flushes again. And you also kind of want to avoid, excess caffeine, excess alcohol, refined sugars.
What I was going to ask you earlier,
Yeah.
was at the beginning of our conversation, you mentioned about how you were told that there's certain foods you should have when the weather's hot and certain foods when it's
Mhm.
cold. Does this apply also like to women in midlife? There's foods that you're recommending or not?
So things like cooling foods, like
Yeah.
cucumbers, coconut, things that are cooling. You don't want to be having that too much because that's going to aggravate vata. But we want to balance the vata energies, right? So vata is made up, has qualities of coolness, but also the irregularity in the mobile movement and things like that. And the things that we are doing to calm the vata down are things like consistent routine, warmth, and nourishment. But we're also balancing that out with slightly cooling activities because the pitta is going high, right?
Okay.
So, things like coconut water, coconut milk, cucumbers, they can all be cooling. Now, if I was in the middle of summer and I'm having hot flushes, I would have a lot more cooling foods and drinks and doing cooling activities than, say, if
Mhm.
I was in the middle of winter,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So, middle of winter, I would be more focused on the warmth and the nourishment.
Mm.
Um, and I would be looking at, okay, when are the hot flushes coming? And just adjusting, making small minor adjustments that have cooling properties so that I'm not overdoing the cooling when I'm in the middle of winter.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
there are so many great things that you can generalize with Ayurveda. So that's why I'm saying consistent routine, like a daily routine, the gentle exercise, the abhyanga. There's so many general things that you can do, which are
Mhm.
fantastic. But then you can really get into individualizing diets and routines based on A, your individual constitution, and B, kind of your signs and symptoms and your transition, like your time of life.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other question I had was, are there common patterns or imbalances you see often in women at this stage?
Um, I mean, yes. So as we were talking about Vata being the main energy force at this time,
Hmm.
it there are definitely signs and symptoms related to Vata dosha that you would see during this time. So, it's going to give you the irregular periods and the missed periods. It's going to give you the mood swings because Vata is about, you know, ups and lows, ups and highs, downs and lows. You can be prone to anxiety if you're more Vata constitution, but likewise, if you are more of a Pitta constitution naturally, you might get more irritable. Or if you're more a Kapha constitution naturally, you might have low moods. So those are some of the ways that we can differentiate between your own constitution and what your signs are through this transition. But most people will get like sleep disturbances. The hot flushes and the night sweats will come for most people. And then you've also got things like bloating and irregular digestion, the brain fog, which you mentioned, because Vata is creating that kind of loss of concentration and that kind of like switching from one thing to the next. It's like,
Yes.
yes.
I get that quite a bit, unfortunately. It's a bit
Yeah,
annoying. Yeah. So
yeah.
that's Vata then.
So that's yeah, all of those. Well, apart from when I was talking about the
Mm,
pitta and the kapha, then yeah, a lot of that is vata signs and symptoms because we're going through this transition into the vata
mm.
stage of life. And I think a lot of us think that it's really just the physical symptoms, but actually it's the emotional and the mental symptoms which can give us a lot of clues as to what we're going through. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's definitely not seen so much because that's a lot in the press about obviously the regular periods, the
hmm
brain fog, but it's there is a lot of anxiety and depression you mentioned earlier as well, which some people they don't realize it's part of perimenopause and they're medicated for it when it's actually not
absolutely.
that. Yeah, so it's quite scary, really.
Yeah. Yeah, which is why it's like very important to take this holistic view,
Mm.
where you kind of take in like, okay, what are your signs and symptoms from all areas of your life? And the way to do that is to start becoming a lot more self-aware, right?
Yeah, well, it's again being more in touch with yourself, right? And
Exactly.
that's
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Listening to your body, what signs is it giving you? Yeah,
Yeah, because everyone is different.
absolutely.
What might work for somebody will work something differently for somebody else. So I guess, like you said earlier, it just depends on how your constitution.
Yeah. So you might go like be talking to your best friend, going through the same things, and they might be more pitta and be going through like very irritable periods. You might be more kapha and like be experiencing more depression, right? And you kind of
Mm.
you won't think that you're both going through the same thing, but you absolutely are.
True. And then how can women begin to tune into seasonal and daily rhythms to support balance?
I think the daily rhythms is most important when we are looking to balance out that vata energy because that
Hmm.
consistent routine, waking up at the same time, having meals at the same time, going to sleep at the same time, that calming your nervous system to be able to
Hmm.
calm vata is going to have a huge impact on how
Hmm.
you see this transition through. You'll be able to kind of bring those highs lower and the lows higher into a more contained container, really. And then in terms of seasonal rhythms, we also want to look after our digestion because digestion and transformation is we can affect our doshas, the balance of our
Hmm.
doshas. So seasonally, I'd recommend doing cleanses. So a spring cleanse or an autumn cleanse, or both, ideally, is going to just help you reset your digestion. It's a time for you to look inwards and just see through the external transition that's happening to help you manage your internal transition, right? Because you're basically juggling two transitions at those times. So you just want to be
Yeah.
a little bit extra careful on yourself.
So what would a cleanse involve? What is a cleanse?
I mean, there's so many different types of cleanses,
Hmm.
but I would say, and it's not just a physical like I'm cleaning out my digestion cleanse. So
Hmm.
I've hosted cleanses before, and we really focus on slowing down, creating the consistent routine, the turning inwards, just giving yourself space and time to think, space to become aware of your bodily cues because you're not filling yourself with loads of different foods and different things from all everywhere. You're having a consistent meal,
Yeah.
and you can be like, okay, right, well, how do I feel after this meal? Right, tuning into your bodily cues. You know,
Mm.
am I experiencing bloating? Am I experiencing heartburn? Am I, can really tune in, and it's this, yeah, it's so much more than just a digestive diet cleanse.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so it's not like, right, cut this out for 3 days and you're done. It's actually going, like, doing the work of like tuning into yourself and like being, okay, this is a reset. I'm going to cleanse, but I'm also like cleansing my mind and my emotions as well as my body.
And over how long a period is that? You do a cleanse on average, and how
So,
often?
so I like to do my cleanse over 9-ish days. So giving yourself 3 days to prepare yourself. It will longer if you need to. So you're starting to cut out, the caffeine, the refined sugars, the processed foods, and you're preparing your body to
Hmm.
receive the good food, right?
Yeah.
And then it's I've got a couple of different scenarios in which you can do the active cleanse. One of which is like khichdi 3 times a day for 3 days, or you can just simplify to like vegetarian meals for
Mm.
those 3 meals for 3 days. So depending on where you are in life, what you're capable of doing, and yeah, how it's going to work for you, you can choose different options of cleanses. But the
Hmm.
traditional one is a khichdi cleanse, and then 3 days. I say 3 days in little quotes of reintroducing foods,
Hmm.
but that can last for a couple of weeks where you start to introduce foods very slowly, because that is the time in which you can go, right, if I'm going to introduce bread today, like I'll eat it, but I will notice how my body feels after I introduce it, right?
Hmm.
Did I feel bloating immediately afterwards, or did I feel really lethargic that afternoon? So you can
Hmm.
start to tune into what your body is telling you. And I
It's
think,
very intuitive, yeah. Hmm.
yeah, like that's one way we can start to like just reconnect with the body.
Mm. Yeah, I guess like foods we're eating before when we were younger, it would be different what we can accept now. I guess is that right? Because the
Yeah,
energy is changing, so I'm assuming like the dosh is kind of different. Then you be taking food in differently as well. Is that?
absolutely. Um, yeah, absolutely. We take things like we can digest so much more as we're younger, and our digestion
Mm.
changes as we grow. Um, yeah, and then we get used to different foods and we can process foods differently. But it's good to just be able to have that reset where we can go, okay, right, what? Because often we'd be like going through life and be like just eating what we eat and dealing
Mm.
with the consequences of it and ignoring it. Like, because be like, oh, I always feel like that after I eat that. Like, I eat
Mm.
pizza, I feel bloated. So, okay, I just carry on. Right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. But I guess, yeah, I think you need it even more so as you get older to kind of
Right?
like listen to your body
Yeah,
because, we're in a different space in our lives as well. Like we can't take it the way we used to.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are some early signs of imbalance that might be emotional or energetic in nature?
And I mean, we already talked about the anxiety
Hmm.
coming up, the irritability, the depression,
Yeah.
depending on what your constitution is. Um, Often, like things like restlessness. You might get more emotionally sensitive. Things that didn't bother you like a few years ago start to bother you again. It's the mental fog and the forgetfulness, difficulty concentrating, which you've already mentioned. Energetically, you can have fatigue for like no reason. You
Yep.
kind of just have the low energy, and you're like, hang on a minute, I got my sleep. What's
Yeah.
happening?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. So those are kind of like more of the mental, emotional, energetic
Hmm.
changes. But it's kind of like looking out for where things are swinging. It's that swings and roundabouts where you kind of like, am I coming? Am I going? Um,
Mm.
and like, where did that kind of emotion come from? You're like, whoa, yeah. So it's the
Mm.
whiplash, the emotional whiplash.
Yeah, that's what it is. But so, because from the way you're explaining it, that's something that you can kind of manage
Yeah,
through like, the foods you're eating and the routine and everything, right?
yeah.
That has an effect on those kind of feelings. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So
Yeah.
you can manage it through, creating that consistent routine,
Hmm.
doing things that are going to calm your nervous system, but also, incorporating like mindful practices, right? So that we can
Mm.
become more aware of like when those emotions are coming up, where the thoughts are coming from, and we can start to emotionally and energetically clear some of that and to make space instead.
Yeah, which leads me to my next question. How can women start to reconnect with their body if they've spent years suppressing or ignoring it?
Okay, so we talked about the cleanse,
Yeah.
and in terms of how you can connect, like physically with your body. And it doesn't just have to be like when you go through a cleanse, right? You can just
Yeah.
do it in your daily life, right? If I eat a certain food, like I actually
Hmm.
take notice of how that makes you feel,
Yeah.
right? So also physically, you can like do a body scan, right? Head to toe, how is your body feeling? How are your muscles? How are your joints feeling? That's like a actual reconnection with your body.
Yeah.
Um, and then you can like reconnect with your mind, start a mindful practice like meditation, a journaling practice so that you can, raise awareness of like your thoughts because your thoughts, come into become emotions and, you can start this practice of like becoming aware of what you're thinking and how that's
Mm-hmm.
affecting how you're feeling. Yeah. And then that kind of goes into, that's the start of a practice that becomes more of a spiritual thing, which is, I think, where this transition also leads us into, um, just a deeper sense of connection with ourselves and initiation into reconnecting up with our intuition, and just being clearer on who we are. So all of
Yeah.
those kind of mind body practices, breath work
Hmm.
is fantastic, and very simple. You can just start with a very simple, um, counting in, counting out breath work practice, and that just gives you pause, right, to connect with yourself.
It's amazing how many of us don't breathe properly. We just take it for granted. But if you actually, see how
Absolutely.
shallowly we breathe,
Yes.
because we're so used to it, it's really not very good for us. But like you said, it's important to just kind of like take awareness of your breath and just
Hmm.
inhale deeply, and you feel automatically different, don't you?
Absolutely. Yes.
Just that
Yeah.
mindfulness coming into play.
Yeah.
Listening feels overwhelmed or unsure where to start. I already asked that question. What two simple practices you'd recommend? The problem is we're going like you answering all the questions that I've already asked you.
um, Hang on. Okay. So let me, if there was like
So my
three
question was if
things.
there's one or two simple practices you'd recommend to begin reconnecting, but I think you've just answered that question anyway. The breath work, the journaling,
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah.
So
So I think I would do, like physically, I would do the Abhyanga, which is the self oil massage. Choose one mindful practice, right?
what's it called, Drew? The Abhyanga?
Abhyanga. Yeah.
It's the name of like when you massage yourself with oil.
It's self oil massage. Yes.
So when self oil, so you're just doing like your arms and your like the whole body by
The whole
yourself.
body, head to toe, if you are game enough to actually do your hair as well,
Okay.
because it
Uh-huh.
absolutely fantastic when you do your hair because obviously you're
I've had it
massaging.
before, like I've had like an
Yes,
Indian hair. It was very nice massage.
yes,
Very
yes. So
messy
you're
though.
nourished, very messy, but absolutely wonderful
Yeah.
for mind and body, right? Because you're building that mind body connection. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, so Abhyanga. Yeah, so a physical practice would be Abhyanga. Find a mindful practice that is going to help you take pause, whether that's the journaling, the breath work, or the meditate, like one thing that's going to resonate with you, and then the consistent routine. So those are three things that I would recommend.
Great tips. Yeah, I like it. And then my next question for you is what do you turn to in your own life when you feel off balance?
Main is journaling
Journaling.
because so I am a Vata type. Like my constitution is, I'm a little bit higher in Vata than the other two. So my mind tends to overthink, right? So journaling helps me to get it all out of my head, sort it all out,
Mm.
and then move forward. So that is my practice that I go
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Okay. And then how can we shift the perception of menopause from a decline to an initiation?
We definitely need to reframe this narrative. I think, it's definitely in my mind. It's not a decline. It is a rite of passage. It's the beginning of the wisdom years, right? Like it is. Yeah, it's where we become, more self-aware. We own our creativity. We step into our light, right?
Mm.
Instead of holding light for everything else, we step into our own light. this we gain this inner strength and resilience. So I think all of that needs to be talked about to reframe it. And I think we empower through education, because that is the only way we're going to do it, through understanding the holistic perspective, not seeing it as something to fear. When we share our knowledge and our experiences, we feel less alone, right? So yeah, I think we should be joining community. So like what you're doing, you're building knowledge and awareness, building community, yeah, and engaging in these kind of sacred rituals around menopause, like woman circles. They're fantastic for helping to reframe this narrative, really.
Yeah, I think the more we talk about it, the better, really. It's just
Exactly.
becomes the subject. Like, we can talk with our children and we talk with our friends, they talk with their friends.
Yeah.
It's something that's not feared, because I think that the unknown is always scary.
Right. Yeah.
You don't know what to expect. But if you have these
Yes.
conversations from a young age, you kind of know that
Yeah.
by the time you're there, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's like, I mean, my kids are what, 9 and 6 now. But I have been teaching them about periods and menstruation from a very early age, like little, but often, right? They come in and ask a question, then, you give them a bit of information. We should be doing the same with perimenopause and menopause, right? We should be getting information little and often, so that when we come to seeing the signs, we'd be like, I can recognize that.
Yeah, this is what I'm trying to do with my 19-year-old. I did mention to her that I'm going through the change. And she turned around and said, but you're too young. That was her reaction, because
Yeah,
it's this
right?
idea that you have to be really old. I'm like, no, it's just
Exactly.
like, it's a transition.
It's,
I'm trying to explain to her. It's not a sudden
yeah,
stop. It's like suddenly, you have these changes going on. It's just for her
yeah,
to be aware. Because obviously now
absolutely.
she's in her prime, but it's going to not
It
be
will
that
come
way.
for
And then
her.
it
Yeah,
comes for everyone.
it does. We
You can't
can't avoid
escape
it.
it. We're all going to be there, but I think the more people that talk about it, the more kind
Hmm.
of normal it becomes, and it's
Yeah.
just normalized, and we have more help out there.
Yeah, yeah. I think the thing everybody thinks it is it just kind of happens and it's just like this
No,
cut-off
that's
point.
what I thought, Drew. I thought menopause is just your period stops and that's the end of
Yeah,
it. That's what I believed, because I
yeah,
wasn't told anything else. My mum
exactly.
never talked about it. I just remember now on reflection, she was quite moody. Like, she used to be quite calm, and all of a sudden she'd be like going through these ups and downs, like, oh,
Hmm.
okay.
Yeah,
But now, like, she's no longer around for me to speak to her about it. But now I realize she must have been going through the change.
yeah.
But for me, myself, I didn't know what to expect. So yeah, I mentioned earlier in the conversation, I didn't know I was going through perimenopause. And that's
No. And that's
scary,
hard.
right? And
That's really hard. Yeah, because you kind of you miss a few periods and you're like, hang on a minute, what's going on? You start to get really worried, and then that leads to, like, the anxiety goes up even more.
yeah,
You're
and the
not.
heart palpitations, Drew. I thought I was
Yeah.
having a heart attack, which is really scary. Like,
Hmm.
when my heart was skipping a beat, I thought, wow, there's something
Yeah.
seriously wrong with me. Like, all of these things were, and I never tied it together
Yeah.
because I didn't know.
Exactly, yeah. So all of these things, when we don't know, and they create this, they exacerbate the kind of the fear and the anxiety, that's exact opposite of what we need to be doing, when we should be calming our nervous system down.
I know, but that's again, knowledge is power. I think once you're
Absolutely.
aware of what you're
Yeah.
going through, you
Yeah.
speak to people and you can find different strategies to work through it, like speaking to you about the Ayurveda, how that can help you. I spoke to Haiti, was talking about how somatics can help as well. So
Yeah.
there is stuff out there. It's not like you're just
Absolutely.
stuck there and
Yeah.
having to be by yourself.
Yeah.
So
And it's so individualistic as well, right? Like,
yeah.
what's going to help you might not help me, but I will find the things that are actually going to work for me. Um,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, which is again why I have this podcast, because even though, as you know, I do my thing, the RT and hypnotherapy, I
Yeah.
believe there's other practitioners who can support, people that
Yeah.
listen to me in a different way that I can at the
Yeah.
retreat, which is where you're coming, and that'll be my
Yes.
next question. It's again an idea that was, kind of there supporting everyone in different ways.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
and it's great
Yeah.
having that community, feeling that you're not alone.
Absolutely.
So again, you'll be joining us at the retreat, which I'm really happy to say. You'll be in September, which is coming up really quickly,
It
actually.
is.
It is really exciting. I had so much fun the last retreat, and this retreat, obviously, you're joining us. I had Katie on, and she was also joining us. So tell me, what are you most excited to share or hold space for at the retreat?
Um, I, to be honest, am just excited to be in a space where women are prioritizing themselves, right? I often find that this type of space is very calming, very grounding, just very nurturing, and people are open and sharing with no judgment, just kind of like a very natural inquisitiveness,
Mhm.
which I'm looking forward to just being in that kind of energy, and seeing like the transformation of people and where they have these aha moments. So I'll be talking about like Ayurvedic nutrition, and I'm excited for people to realize that it doesn't have to be complicated, right? They can just have this little moment where they'll be like, ah, okay, so now I realize why tomatoes are no good for me, or like why I
Mm.
feel like this when I eat this, and that they can just make these very small tweaks, um, and adjustments to what they eat, and it will make a huge difference in how they feel. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. And also, you'll be curating the menu that I'll be preparing. So that's like
Yes,
a collaboration.
I
You'll be
know,
preparing
that's
the
so
food, but you'll
exciting.
be, it'll be really fun. That's a great thing that you suggested. I think it's a great idea. So I'm
Yeah,
sure you're thinking of some great recipes.
yes, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm looking forward to as well.
So
So
I
yeah,
might get kicked out because it's 3 o'clock, but we'll just do the last
just
question.
two more questions. So what are something or your body or intuition has been teaching you lately?
So my intuition has been telling me to step back and observe,
Mhm.
to let go of control and just let things flow. And yeah, that's what it's been telling me. Like the universe will do what it's going to do, and I just need to
Go with flow.
flow with it. Yep, flow with it.
Yeah, love that. And lastly, what does living as your limitless self mean to you right now?
Um, exactly that. Like to go with this flow, and that I'm exactly where I need to be right now, and that is alignment.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Drew. I'll
You are
speak to you
welcome.
soon.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for listening to Hot Flashes and Higher Self. And if something in today's episode spoke to you and you're feeling ready for deeper support, then you can book a one-to-one session with me. I work with women around the world to help them shift from stuck to self-led. And if you're craving real connection, movement, rest, and reset, then check out the women's retreats I host. They're a beautiful mix of healing, hot yoga, incredible food, and soul-deep conversations and connections. And you can find all the details at www.ls-therapy.com or come hang out with me on Instagram at Limitless Self Therapy. And you can also reach me directly anytime at soraya@lstherapy.com. I'd love to connect. Take care of you, fill that cup of yours, and remember, your next chapter is already unfolding.